Josephine Street, right down
Okay.
from Pearl.
I know
Y'all
where
ready?
that is. Yes, sir.
We're not green yet, but
My
thank
favorite
you.
color.
We're green.
All right, staff ready? Let's go ahead and start the show. We'll go ahead and call to order this Kerrville City Council workshop for October 14th, 2025. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and start with 2A, and I believe, are you going to start with that, Mr. Hornis?
Sure. Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for taking the time this afternoon. I don't have much in the way of the debris updates. What I can tell you is that it's not slowing down so much as I think it's slightly more complicated work at each of the locations they're at. So the numbers have increased from the last meeting from 1.3 million cubic yards up to just over 1.6, 1.7, probably 1.7 as of today. There's about 1,000 right of entry, 1,050 right of entry requests that have been made to the debris team. So that's private property owners that are requesting folks come onto their property and remove that debris. And they've completed about 750 of them. So right at, I think at the previous meeting, I don't know if it was this meeting or somewhere else I was talking, we're at about 75% of those properties have been completed. And the majority of that debris is coming from the waterway, right? And so the majority of the properties are private property. And so it would stand to reason that we're around 75% done. I think we're probably going to hit 2 million cubic yards. I think we might have talked about that last time. But that's kind of where we sit right now. I was talking to staff earlier about FEMA projects and where we stand. Bear Creek being kind of the one that I know is our responsibility, our biggest kind of bridge responsibility, let's say. So we received a quote the other day from someone to do the Flobafill as a temporary fix, and that quote is just under $500,000 for something that's going to be there for, it's temporary, right? But what is temporary? Temporary in this instance is going to be over a year. And so it is a reimbursable expense through FEMA at about 75%. So I think Kyle put out RFQ for the permanent fix to that bridge, and that's in the paper now as of October 8th. And so we're soliciting requests for qualifications for that project. So that's about a 6 to 9 month engineering process for that. Once that's done, that'll be about, I don't know, hopefully not a year to fix that. I would say between 6 to 9 months, but it could be a while. They'll repair that bridge in place if that's the mechanism that we go through.
Can I ask a question?
Please, sir.
What is FIBA-fill? What, you said their temporary solution would be,
Just under 500,000 is our
no, I knew the
first.
number.
Yeah.
You said they were going to use a product that I didn't recognize.
Oh, Flobafill is what it's called.
Flobafill.
Yeah, it's kind of a
What is
weird
it?
name. It's a concrete-like substance that is used. So you'll see it in. You ever seen those when they're lifting up a house from the concrete? That's kind of a Flobafill sort of material type. That's the most easy comparison I can make. It's not concrete, it is a concrete-like substance, right? So they would put culverts down in the sections that have washed out for Bear Creek, and we'd have to sort of dam it up in the interim to put in the temporary fix with the Flobafill, but it sets pretty fast. Sets almost, I don't want to say almost immediately, but it's not a 21-day cure time or anything like that. The downside to it is that if we get another heavy rain, that has more of a chance to move than a permanent concrete fix, right? So I think we might have discussed at the last meeting not wanting to put that in prior to at least October 31st, because that's kind of the end of our rainy season, typically. And so I think I spoke to the paper about it. That's who I spoke to about it. So it would be no earlier than October 31st.
So if it does cost $500,000, the city's exposure is about $125,000.
Yes, sir.
Do we have sources that would help us with that $125,000?
We have insurance funds,
Of course.
right? That's a primary. That's kind of our biggest infrastructure piece to replace. We could go that route. Other sources of funds, we'd have to get into a little bit further in terms of state assistance to cover our 25% portion.
If the staff was to recommend that we go ahead with this, you say it would be after Halloween, roughly when would it go in and how long would it take?
Well, one of the questions that Julie is, I think, asking right now, FEMA is, this one started as a STAR request, right? Denied by TDEM as that. And so does this qualify for us? Because for us, it was still kind of an emergent issue,
Of course.
right? And so do I need to get 3 quotes in order to have this as a FEMA reimbursable expense? Because if we do, we're going to get 2 more quotes tomorrow. We looked at it as an emergent issue, so she's answering that question now.
Good.
To mobilize and get out there, we could probably have it by mid-November, depending on how many quotes we have to get, right? And hopefully they're divergent, and the first one is an aberration, and it's not $500,000, but I don't think, we've worked with a company that provided the quote, and they're usually not too far off, so.
So even if you got it mid-November and it was passable by December 4th, that's still 5 months, 6 months from the event, 5 months from the event. These people have been in without direct communication to medical, to shopping, to everything that they do outside their home. So I know you're working on it. I know you're doing great. But I am hearing how urgent it is from people who are affected directly, and I know you are too.
We are, and we know that their drive is what, 11 miles longer, 11 minutes, well, somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes longer for that
You
drive.
cannot drive that drive at 60 miles an hour, sir.
No, I know you can't. Yeah,
I
so
can't.
20 miles an hour. No, let me be clear. We don't want anyone to do that drive that fast. So it's a 20-minute longer trek around.
Right. And if you're waiting for an ambulance, 20 minutes is a long time.
It is too long. Yes,
All
sir.
right, I'm sorry to have interrupted you. Where else are we going?
So I think next meeting or the meeting after, we're going to have kind of a visioning for you with what you may have seen on the lead after the Parks Board meeting. Kind of went through that. We're gonna kind of piece together a couple of different visions people have. So folks are talking about donating trees to us. People are talking about donating funding for parkland, Guadalupe Park in particular, to get that back up and going. Louise Hayes Park is going to be a longer conversation, right? We're shifting things from the flat sections down up to where Lehman Monroe Park is at and where the dog park currently sits. So I think there's a lot of questions still to be asked and answered. Funding to be secured, cost estimates still to be procured. We talked about somewhere between $6 and $10 million if all the things on that piece of paper were to be procured. Where would that funding come from? How could we do it? I think we probably have to come back with a few different options as well, because we don't have $10 million, right? And I think we just need to kind of see where y'all want to head to. So we have a good starting point. We had a bunch of trees that are going to be donated by the Trees for Texas folks, and they've talked about trying to line out the river trail at Louise Hayes Park, and I think that'll look really nice. I think the parking lot infrastructure is not going to be too crazy to rebuild what we already have out there. It really is just kind of taking out the splash pad and moving it, putting in new courts and, kind of all that. So Jay and his team will bring that back to y'all either later this month or at the beginning of November. And with that, I will turn it over. I'm here more for questions y'all might have gotten from constituents.
I do want to mention, thank you to Jay Brimmel and his crew, because to reimagine Louise Hayes Park is a big job, and I appreciate all you're doing. We met, I think, late July, early August with Jay and the chair of the Parks Board and city manager and myself. I laid out 3 things. Number 1, we have a clean slate at Louise Hayes Park. We don't have to put back what was there. Okay? Number 2, don't hurry, don't rush. Take the time to do it right. And number 3, it's going to be expensive, but we're going to figure out how to pay for it. So, thank you for all you're doing. I appreciate it very, very much. Any questions for
I just
Mr.
wanted to ask, now that we've been on multiple tours and stuff down there, when we went down to Louise Hayes Park, a lot of the river trail was covered in sediment and stuff. How much of the river trail itself was actually salvageable? Most of it?
Almost all of it.
Almost all of it.
So, and I would say, the bridge at Camp Meeting Creek,
Yes,
that is obviously a piece that has to get replaced, but
yes,
even the sections that are still closed, so from Lemos
yes.
to the Dietert
Uh-huh.
Center, the actual trail itself stood the test of time.
Okay,
Concrete's all sitting there.
okay,
What's underneath it is kind of bare in a few spots.
okay.
We did make a request through TDM to include kind of restoring that while those crews are down there.
Okay,
It doesn't fit the category, so we're going to have to do that piece through, as a public assistance project through FEMA. I still think a project that we could get reimbursed 75%, but we're going to have to do that solicitation ourselves, as it would be like a normal city project. So we were hopeful that would be the case, but we're going to have to bring in a lot of base, riprap. We're going to have to get, I don't think, it doesn't have to be engineered.
yeah,
We can put it together ourselves as a project, and just get a contractor to go out there and do that work, but it's going to take quite a bit of base, to fill that back in.
and what about, is there an update on Nimitz Lake? Are we dredging that, or what are we doing with Nimitz Lake?
So, that's all kind of contingent on search and rescue. That's a function, not a dredging project. That's a search and rescue project. So,
Did start, didn't it, like today?
in
Not,
Ingram,
sorry, not Nimitz, I'm thinking of Ingram Lake.
they're out at Ingram Lake, yeah, and so it's an endeavor to get all that out there, right? And I think they started talking about that project more than a month ago. And it was an approved project more than a month ago, so it takes quite a bit to get all that mobilized and just to set the crane out there that's gonna get everything out in the water.
I'm sure.
I was at that meeting, it was about a month ago. It was,
Yeah.
and we gave them the green light, it just takes time.
It does. Yep.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say the tree project is really exciting, and I think it's worth sharing with people because folks that have now been back on the river trail are having a hard time dealing with the difference of what it looks like. And I think knowing trees are coming, seeds are coming. Jay did a great job we met with the arborist from Trees for Houston, which is also Trees for Texas, last week, and came up with a real good schematic with his information as an arborist and our desires as far as where to mow and how to do things. We'll come up with a good plan for looking different in some time. It will take some time, but it's a great start, and I just think we need to talk about that to folks. And as we start to get the dates when we're going to get these trees, we will be publicizing it because I think it's going to be a really good, feel-good moment for people.
Healing.
Some healing.
Jeff, you got anything?
She stole my thunder, but, because I did hear, I mean, I heard a lot of people say, thank goodness it's back open. It's a healing process to have, at least part of the river trail back open. Christy and I were out there a little bit over the weekend and just saw so many people out there. But like you said, like I heard, I believe it was this morning as well, but, it's almost like they were rushed when they went in and cleaned everything up. And I know we're talking about doing a park in the day again and getting everybody out there and doing things. So, you know, it's, you know, talking to people, telling people, like you said, Delane, and it's never gonna be what it was on July the 3rd again. But, the new will be amazing.
Anything? Yeah, I do want to say again to you and your crew, thank you for getting portions of the trail open. I've heard great reviews of being able to get back out, and I appreciate it. Thank you. What's next?
Long-term recovery, folks.
Todd, you want to go?
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, ma'am.
When I allowed to make one comment if I introduce myself?
Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
My name's Rusty Hairholzer, for those that don't know me, and I live on the other side of Bear Creek.
Need you on the microphone. Sorry. We have to record these meetings.
Okay. And I live on the other side of Bear Creek Road. It was 4 miles by EMS, and now it's a little over 11 by EMS, okay? So that does take a lot for us that are getting older and have some health issues. There's about, on Bear Creek itself, there's at least between 40 and 50 residents that are affected, and that's not counting those going up in Primrose and all that area, which would be a whole lot more, so at least double that. The one thing that I would say, before, when y'all are considering making that decision, is 2 days ago, they even had a 3-car accident on Indian Creek, because that's one of the other 2 ways. It's either Shepherd Reese or Indian Creek, and those are narrow roads. In Indian Creek, they had 3 of them hit, okay, because it's just too narrow. And the county really can't expand them because they only had, the landowners, like myself, owned to the middle of the road. And they had an easement back probably 100 years ago that wasn't that wide. So even those 2 roads are built right up to the fence lines. So there's no place for cars to get out if they go too fast. Now, Bear Creek, we thought we had it made this summer because about 3 weeks before that flood hit, the county had just finished widening Bear Creek. But now it sits because you really can't use it, okay? As far as the culverts, the only thing I would wonder is there's 2 built-in ones, cement ones, as you know. Those 2 are dry right now. They don't have any water running under them hardly at all because it's all going around the end that got washed out. The end that got washed out never had culverts there. So I don't know if you really need more culverts or if you filled that in, but I'm not an engineer and I'm not a bridge builder, so
Just
that
for-
would be up to someone else.
And that's just for the temporary solution.
Right.
Not the permanent one. Yes, sir.
But
Yeah.
I would just ask you to seriously consider, for the health reasons and for the
Safety.
reasons of how wide those roads are for all the residents, that, you know, a lot of those back in there, are retirement homes. So we don't want to move, you know, but we also live there because it was closer for EMS than moving out to Hunt or Mountain Home. So I just appreciate it, and thank y'all for your update. I will try and spread that to
Please
some of
spread the word.
neighbors, because as I told Joe earlier today, I have heard, they call me, most of the neighbors do, I guess.
Of course they do.
For some weird reason.
I would call you.
But they, I've heard that it was gonna be a year, I heard it was gonna be 2 years, and I heard today it wasn't gonna get fixed at all.
Oh,
They were
ooh.
just gonna abandon it. So that's what's going on
Yeah.
out there. So I'll definitely spread what y'all are saying, and thank you.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you.
for doing
Thank you,
that.
Sheriff.
Todd?
Mayor, Council, thank you. Todd Bach, Kerr EDC. Today, we will go through our stakeholder update with our long-term recovery group working throughout the county of Kerr. Here we'll see is the Board of Directors and working groups of the long-term recovery group. I will let you know that this has changed and changed some as our 2 o'clock meeting today prior to being here, and we are actually settling into a good rhythm. We've had a new chair appointee of the working groups. Former Mayor Judy Eichner has run her term as the chair and has stepped down. So today we went through the process of selecting a new chair and a vice chair, and which would create an additional seat on the Board of Directors of 9 through our working groups. which was voted on today to move tourism as a sub-working group into the Board of Directors working group. Going across the top, Curry EDC and the steering committee is my committee and Teresa Metcalf. Then you've got the business recovery across the top, which is led by Chris Hughes. Funding coordinating our 501c3 partners and funding, that is led by Mark Hoffler. And the Guadalupe River Flood Warning System is led by Tara Bushno and UGRA. The River Riparian Working Group is led by Jonathan Letts. The Housing, Construction, and Management is led by John Dunn at the Hunt Preservation Society. And I will say that is, his vice chair is Mary with Habitat. So Habitat will be working on the far east side of the county all the way through Kerrville. And then Hunt Preservation Society will take it from the Kerrville city limits through Ingram and out through far west Kerr. They received their funding this week, so there will be setting up their construction sites and getting moving on housing very soon. They've identified the housing. The first set of houses they're going to focus on in West Kerr is going to be the Bumblebee subdivision out there, and they are standing up that construction office in Hunt as we speak. So they'll begin actual construction through that grant, also funded by the Community Foundation for Habitat and the Hunt Preservation Society. Then we have the Emotional and Spiritual Working Group, which is led by David Payne and former Mayor Bill Blackburn. And the Unmet Needs is led by Beth Palmer at Light on the Hills. And then we have our subcategory working groups, which is Communication, which is Tim Rye and Kim Clarkson. And Government Affairs is yet to be stood up yet. We are kind of waiting to see how we put that working group together as we see fit moving forward into moving from the state level and potentially the federal level for lobbying for the needs of Kerr County. And Economic Development Subcommittee is led by Kelly Hagemeyer. Tourism, which now will be a board seat, is led by Julie Davis. And then we have Arts and Cultural, which, switch over here. Under the Arts and Cultural, these are the working groups chairs and vice chairs. And under the Arts and Cultural, we got Catherine Boyette and Angela Kennedy. This too is a slide that was put together last week. Some of this has changed as well, and some of the board seats are settling in with their chair and their vice chairs. But covering what we feel is a broad spectrum of needs in Kerrville and Kerr County and far western Kendall County. I'm going to go back a second to the slide here. So below the line, we have what's called our paid positions and support staff for the long-term recovery group and our VOAD partnerships. The long-term recovery consultants were offered to Kerr EDC by a foundation, and those are paid consultants, William Whitson and Kim Fouts, which are under the working group of the Kerr EDC Steering Committee, and they are available to all of the working groups. They bring experience in disaster recovery primarily from a funding standpoint. They go out, and as we identify projects throughout the county, they then go back and identify state and federal funds in which to secure funding to cover those project costs. The administrative, the PIO, the research, and the research coordinator are a grant that we applied for, OneSource, which has a department underneath them called Rebuild Texas, reached out to us and said, hey, we've got an allocation of $350,000 for long-term recovery. Please go identify some of your needs. We have identified some of those needs, so we will have some of the paid positions as support staff moving forward for the long-term recovery group, of which the PIO will be paid. A portion of that is under the HEB grant to cover the PIO to get us started, and then the Rebuild Texas grant will carry it from there and have that position for a year. Then we have below there the VOADs that we work with, which is the volunteer organizations after disaster, and Jim is kind of one of our umbrella VOADs, the Global Empowerment Mission. They are located all over the world, and they bring some special skill sets to the community that we didn't find in all of the VOADs. They kind of have one big broad brush, and our primary attraction to Jim was their ability to manage warehousing and their ability to help in the business recovery and reconstruction. And what we're starting out in this disaster is what's called a business case management, which I'll get to that a little more in detail. We currently have funded by the Community Foundation 27 case managers working throughout Kerr County, and that is under Beth Palmer in the unmet needs. As we will talk and discuss, and you've heard me say before, gathering the data and having data drive this recovery is very important, and we're coming to a point to where all of the data throughout Kerr County is under mutual shared relationships. So we're starting to compile a lot of this data, making our decisions moving forward based on that data, not just what if or guesses. And as we go, these positions will be filled based on that data and based on that need, and our asks throughout the community and under other funding sources will also be based on data that the board goes through and selects as a project comes up. The 9-member board has a say as whether or not that project moves forward and that we go seek the funding, and our funding coordinator helps coordinate that funding source that we go to ask for those funds. Here again are the board of directors, and this is changing as of today. So we're going to have a new chair as former Mayor Eichner has stepped down. The vice chair, Mr. John Dunn, was voted on to be the board chair, and our vice chair is going to be former Commissioner Jonathan Letts. This is an example, council, of what a working group looks like. At the top bubble, you'll see up there, you've got your Kerr Together Long-Term Recovery Board of Directors. And underneath that, you have the Guadalupe River Warning System Working Group, which is comprised of UGRA, representatives from Kerr County, City of Kerrville, City of Ingram, Emergency Services, and public input, along with all of the governing entities. UGRA's portion in this working group, this is led by Tara Bushnell of UGRA. UGRA has contracted with Kisters North America. Kisters North America, when it comes to the flood warning system, are global as well. A local representative happens to be associated with Kister, which is a perfect fit. Being born and raised here, Matt Abels works for Kister, and Kister was selected by UGRA as the top leading data flood warning system data collection system. So we'll have further presentations to the council as we get forward and get deeper into the development. We had this presentation today at Commissioner's Court. The other working group underneath is the County Development Team, which was selected by the county commissioners. Tom Mosier leads that up and has representatives from all of the other organizations, and they're drilling down into the real deep engineering side. Their goal is to have what we've discussed this morning to not be a gold standard, but be a platinum standard of flood warning systems in the state. That team is dealing in with all the details, and we have currently the Emergency Services Working Group is getting compiled and put together. Went and saw Chief Maloney and met with him, and he is organizing that group so that the Emergency Services Group have a working group underneath the long-term recovery as well as positions in the flood warning system. As we come without this system, right, we'll have all the gauges within the flood basin and all the tributaries. All that data will go into a Kister system, which will then come out with multiple different types of warnings into all the emergency coordinators within the county to activate and how to respond as the warnings are initiated by the system. And this is an example of how a lot of our working groups are working. You'll have different working groups, but all come together under one umbrella as a working group, which brings back all of their work, both in write-ups and to the board, and shares with the board. This is an example of another one of our working groups. This is today, as we know, we heard that the housing construction is underway. The next focus is now on business recovery. Business recovery is led by Chris Hughes of Broken Arrow Ranch and Mr. Paul Zip of James Avery. This data, council, that we have collected is, again, a moving target. It is moved as of even earlier today, but it's pretty consistent with the numbers. So after data cleanup, we've identified approximately 260 to 265 affected businesses in Kerr and West Kendall counties. What that is a compilation of those that were directly affected by the rising water of the July 4th flood and those that have indirect impact from the flood and are in need of economic relief. Of the 260 to 265, we've identified 74 businesses as self-identified as direct impact, with over 90% of those, and that number is higher. That number is probably about 98% of those businesses have been directly contacted by the Business Recovery Working Group and those members that are involved in that working group. These are phone calls, these are sit-down meetings, these are going to their place of business and identifying the need to rebuild that local business. And of those businesses that are 74 directly impacted, you will see the breakdown amongst the camps, the vacation rentals, retail, services, restaurant, and the agriculture. And the primary areas you'll see is primarily Hunt and Ingram, Kerrville, Hunt and Ingram, countywide, Ingram and Kerrville, or mixed. On the structural commercial rebuild estimates, these are estimates that we are going through after having one-on-one conversations, and we have a very few businesses that sustained direct impact have not reported to us yet. So from our camps, retail, vacation, and all others, we have a rebuild estimate of $58.6 million, and we've broken that out. The rebuild estimate is total rebuild, which is labor, materials, and professional services, in order to establish those numbers. Some of those numbers are still in the process of being shored up. Some of those numbers are hard numbers that contractors have already given to the business as this is what it's going to cost you to rebuild. So there's a mix between some soft cost and actual estimates in the total rebuild. The Business Recovery Working Group's first ask is going to be for a materials ask for these businesses, to where we are currently preparing a grant request to the Community Foundation for materials, to supply materials to these businesses for their rebuild process. And that is currently underway. We have been given a deadline to shoot for, which is October the 20th, to have our proposal submitted. That proposal is probably 85% complete right now. We have a little more completion to do and a little more work to do on solidifying these numbers before we are comfortable with making that ask to the Community Foundation. In that process, as you saw, Jim is an integral part of this county's rebuild, whether it be in construction, whether it be in warehousing, whether it be in program management. We will be using that warehouse, obviously, to solicit building materials, which will be stored at we have up to 20,000 square feet available to Kerr County under that Jim proposal, where they will have a full-time warehouse management. They'll have a full-time warehouse staff, forklifts, and delivery trucks in order to get those materials out to the job sites, both in the housing construction side and in the business side as well. Other programs that we're out seeking is obviously the federal and SBA programs. Many businesses, as we all know, were very hesitant to accept loans. Prior to the flood, they were debt-free, their inventory was free. All of that obviously has changed. We are currently working with SBA, and Yvette Cruz has been amazing. She joins either in person or via Zoom virtually to all of our business recovery. She is advising us how to reach back out to the SBA for the folks in the businesses that have applied to the SBA loan. We are working with those. When we hear a business through our personal contact with them that either they did not get approved or the interest rate was too high, we are getting them to resubmit, and they are personally looking at each one of these applications again. If you know of anyone that has gone through the SBA application process and either threw their hands up and said it's too much, or they've said we got denied, or they were given a withdrawn notice. A withdrawn notice takes effect if you're in the middle of the process and you needed some different information, data, financials, and you didn't get them to SBA in a timely manner, it goes to withdrawn status. That doesn't mean you're out. This is an education process. We want you to get back in. So we're also going to ask for case managers. During our survey, we have case managers taking care of all the individual needs across the county, but through our survey, our businesses said, hey, we would like case managers as well too. We don't have the time, energy, or effort to go through this process and find out where we go get the money or run through all these different channels. So we're also going to be requesting business case managers to help out the businesses, guide them through the process of requesting funding and to help get their business back on track. Again, with Lift Fund, you're all familiar with Lift Fund. Lift Fund is still very active in our community. They just received an additional $1 million worth of funding from Bank of America. They will be continually operating and servicing our needs within the community. We are also reaching out to other CDFIs to join us as we continue for the long-term recovery, not just the initial injection of capital, which we saw in the very beginning. And again, can't say enough about our local banking partners. Amazing to go to these banking meetings where you have all the local community bankers in a room, helping one another, helping everybody out, trying to help develop programs. How do we help out with the business recovery models? How do we help out with the home construction models? So hats off again to all of our bankers participating in the working groups. Funding pipelines are active but underutilized due to loan hesitancy and administrative delays. So as you know or may not know, we are working on developing a one location offering, which is 98 Coronado. Kerr EDC and James Avery offered an unbelievable deal to the community. We are currently seeking funding to move into this facility where we can have a lot of the initial resources, SBA, FEMA, TDM, business case management, unmet needs, occupy the building. So everyone, when you're out, can send anyone for any need to one location. As we know, they continue to move throughout the disaster in different locations and their acronym changed and they were doing something different. We will have one location to send everyone. We've received $50,000 worth of funding to help stand that facility up through a donating and funding partner over the weekend. We are waiting on another grant request for an additional $50,000, which will give us $100,000 worth of annual budget to open that facility up. As soon as we secure that, Kerr EDC will sign the contract with James Avery and we'll begin to get that location up and running and market it and identify it as the one location for long-term recovery in Kerr County. Here are a couple of quick samples of kind of how we began, how we started from July 7th, and former Mayor Judy Eichner setting up the Kerr Together Task Force, having our first meeting and launching the initial Kerr Together website. July 8th, Mayor and the judge announced that Kerr Together website is the website to go to gain all the up-to-date and information that had been vetted through the JIC. As we move through July, all the processes that we began putting together a long-term recovery. Started this back on July 17th. Moved into August. We had our consultants give a presentation. That is William Whitson and Kim Faust. And then case management began in coordinating the meetings with TDM. Long-term recovery group had their consultants' first day on the job was August 25th. And Kerr Together Task Force began formalizing and converting into Kerr Together, which is now the long-term recovery group, and standing up the board structure. Then we move into September. On September 9th, Kerr Together had its first board meeting and board of directors meeting on September 9th. As we moved through September, we had a couple of really important wins to where, as several of you mentioned about Heal the River and We'll Heal Ourselves, well, the River Riparian Group has just done an amazing job and they've been at it nonstop, and we're able to secure a funding grant from the Community Foundation for $150,000 for seeds and sedges, which was a timing thing. So the Community Foundation saw the urgency to start planting the seeds in a time in which those seeds and those plants can be grown and then be distributed out to property owners all along the river. And that's just a phase one of a potential $4 to $5 million San Antonio Botanical Gardens and all of our tree donors. Amazing how everyone has stepped up and get our river back to its new reimagined form. Council, I know that's a lot, so I'm going to open now for any questions or discussions. I know you probably got a lot of questions and get asked a lot from the constituencies as to where we're going and what the long-term recovery is doing.
Any questions for Todd?
No, I want to know what the acronym, you probably mentioned it, but I missed it. VOAD, what does that acronym stand for?
Volunteer After Disaster. Volunteer Organization After Disaster.
Oh,
That's your Samaritan's Purse, that's your gym, that is all of those organizations that come in to support the community that are volunteers. We will have and will continue to have one of our, another funding position that we're looking to get full-time is a volunteer coordinator, because I know each and every one of you are getting the phone calls of an organizational group that wants to come in, where can I help? And this volunteer coordinator will be the one that will take all of those calls and be able to help set those volunteer organizations up the date they arrive and actually put that work to use where it's actually needed, in lieu of, as we've all experienced, showing up with 40 or 50 people where you needed 10 and they had no idea where to go and they traveled long distances. And so that's one of the early on challenges that we want to make best use of all the resources coming in our community, and that's what a volunteer coordinator will help do.
Kent?
Oh, you got a big job and you're doing a great job getting it
Yes.
organized. And so appreciate all the effort you and the whole team's doing. It's pretty amazing what you're getting accomplished. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you. And I have to tell you, we have a very active Army behind us. It is an amazing, the energy that all of these working groups, and again, I believe that number's grown. It's somewhere around 80 are comprised of all these working groups. So you have a meeting once a week, sometimes twice a week, in order to get where this county feels like we need to be and the time that this county feels like we need to be at, which was yesterday. So they're working very hard. I've got a great organization.
Jeff?
You said that, I mean, I guess y'all have a active list of what businesses have had to close their doors. And you said restaurants, we've had 2, is that right?
We do, well, yes, and we know of one that sold. One was 1011 Bistro because they were not able to get back into their facility. So they closed down. There was another one in Comfort. One got torn down. They're out of business. And I believe there was a fourth as of recent prior to this slide. I think we had another one. Yeah, and one, yeah, that's it. That's the other one. We're still trying to verify at this time. But we know it is urgency is of the essence, and we know we do have a lot of our businesses that are on this list that have identified we're moving forward, right? So part of what we're trying to do too is, hey, they either had the immediate ability or the wherewithal to get moving. We're also looking at ways, and don't know if any of this will make, to get them reimbursed for what they have already spent, because a lot of that money that they've spent came from savings, came from operating income, came from family and friends and parents. It didn't necessarily mean that the business had all the cash flow in the world to do this. They are strained. We understand they are all strained. We also understand that I think I sent around to some folks in the working group, received Fredericksburg is saying the same thing. They have indirect effect as to what's happened here too. When you have a 10-county disaster area, we talked about it in the comms meeting today, and tourism. Outside of us think that it is just a completely devastated area. And we're working on getting that messaging out through a marketing firm that HEB has helped us select, get, and fund, and with the PIO to come in and help us to get that messaging out. The Public Information Officer, the PIO, the deadline for submitting for that job is tomorrow, and then there will be a committee that will vet and hire them, and then we will get moving.
I actually looked at that job description. I feel like I don't know, it'd be nice money, but anyway. I got enough to do.
My point, one restaurant, one business, one camp. That's 3 things. and that's 3 too many.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, I do know Tomas, and I know that they said there is no way they could ever reopen. And for the community, that's bad. For Tomas, it's bad. But, you know, I'm glad we have the resources that y'all are working through everything. Thank you, Todd and Kelly. Thank y'all for trying to help the ones that, I don't want to say can have the help, because everybody can take the help, but that can take the help and reopen. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Lane?
Yes, thank you so much. I know you're putting in a lot of hours, probably more than we know. Okay, so you answered one question, what are the sources of funding, and you answered that in this slide. I guess, and then in the marketing, because I'd like to know, do you feel like we've reached everyone? And you did answer it to a certain degree with this PIO, getting the word out, because that's one of the things I think about is for folks who might not be tech savvy and connected, it's eventually it should trickle down and get them, but we don't want eventually to come. We'd like to know sooner than later when someone needs something. So could you touch on specifically what you're doing to get that out? Like literally what that would be, print material and social media and?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a communications working group, and the communications working group is working and already have been working towards that messaging. So there's a couple different messages, right? There's the immediate message right now to our community,
Right.
and that's going to be the focus. The focus is going to be, what have you been doing? What's going on? How far are you? What are the plans? And this community just doesn't know that right now. And that's going to be our number one priority. And two, that also helps us find maybe somebody that fell through the cracks, and it's going to be through all media, complete media outlets. And websites don't answer everything, but the website that we're looking at standing up will be a very robust website that will almost have silos for all of these working groups so that you don't get a flood of information. If there's one thing in particular you're looking for, you can go and directly find out what that working group is up to, who are the contacts, what are they doing, hey, I didn't know I could get funding for that, and give that as another updated resource versus the Cur Together website. It had a time and a place, and it's just not that anymore. It's not, you can't react to it as much as we want it to. So the new website will help, plus all media outlets for getting this message out. And we also want it to be a clear, united message, right? Not going in all of these different working groups, going in different messaging. We want to bring it all together. One thing we have done, and out of respect for the loss of life and the magnitude, we did not rush out to do this in the beginning. We now are going to start easing this out because the community, and we hear this as of today through David Payne and the Emotional Spiritual Working Group, and through Beth Palmer with the Unmet Needs. We're entering the phase of angry. They're dealing with a lot of angry folks due to they were displaced, or they don't have their home, or it wasn't like what they were, and it's completely understand that completely. And that's where our case managers are really stepping up and helping that, and getting them to all the right places, not only funding or material things, but to the spiritual and needs. And that's going to be one of our key focuses when we get this out, is here's where you can go to get help on every aspect of recovery.
One more thing. I lived through 8 hurricanes in Florida, so by the 8th one, we had it down pat, when you get your gas, when you get the cash from your ATM, when you put the shutters up. So I guess my question would be, we've probably all learned some things from this, so we want to make sure the next time this happens, is there a way we're compiling the first day, the second day? I'm sure the city manager's already on top of that, but I think about the notes I made the first day, the second day, the third day, we didn't know this, we didn't have this. So a lot of your volunteers are not as educated, and they're the ones on the front line receiving folks who need help. So I would love to have it just put in some type of print material we could have to just take back out. This, it won't last forever. We'll have to update it, of course, but it would be nice to be able to do that.
And to that very thing, our consultants have told us, there needs to be an after-action assessment. We've even had people reach out and say, hey, when you get to this point, we would like to come in and potentially volunteer our services to help your community do that global, what do we need? How do we go back? If we had to do it again, what could we do better? And yes, that was the first thing they came in and start grabbing everything, sheets of paper from everybody, not just one source, but all different aspects so that we can build that, because your long-term recovery group should never go away. It shouldn't be something you bring back at the next disaster. It should always be working in the background. It should never go away.
Thank you for everything, Todd.
Yes,
Kelly.
thank you, Todd.
Any other comments or questions? I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it 2,000 times. Thank you for everything you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we got a great group.
You do.
We just pray our way through it.
Yes.
Item 2C, Ms. Hagemeyer. As she's coming to the microphone, I want to have a news flash. I actually met Lena the other day, first time. Yeah. Kelly's daughter.
Oh.
She really enjoyed that. So, hello, council. I'm going to just give y'all a very quick update of where we are specifically with the businesses in Kerrville. So there were 27 directly impacted businesses that can be of varying degrees. We've broken that down into 4 residential, meaning that those are apartment complexes or long-term rentals. 9 retail, 10 vacation rentals, 1 restaurant, and 3 service industries. And we are looking at, we will probably get to that $3 million mark as we continue to get these assessments from these various businesses. And then, of course, like Todd had mentioned, the best resources right now are to go into your local banks, go tell them what your situation is, going to SBA, even if you have been denied or withdrawn, to reach out to myself or Todd, and we can get you in contact with SBA, or you can go directly to their location, which they are at First Presbyterian Church, and that is 800 Jefferson. One thing is, if you did receive an SBA loan at the 8%, go in and ask them if you can get it at that 4%. It's one of those things that you would be impressed by what they might say yes to if you know the correct request to make and the direct question to have. And then the LIFT fund. So the biggest thing there is that they were able to increase their loans from $50,000 to $100,000. And so, and then mostly on the economic development side, we have been working closely with the business recovery, watching what they're doing, because they are working for the more directly how to get businesses back to where they were, or what the new normal will look like for them. And then economic development is just kind of assessing where tourism businesses are right now. We are collaborating with the tourism group, that community outreach and the economic development group are all working together to come up with some sort of internal shop local campaign, and also an external we are open, please come visit Kerrville tourism campaign. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Hagemeyer? Go ahead, please.
Kelly, you said if you know the right questions to ask, or if you've applied or withdrawn or been denied and go back, would that be something better for those businesses to utilize the business caseworker, because they will know exactly what to ask and how to ask it on their behalf? Because I think if I walked in there and I just said, hey, you denied me once, they're probably gonna say, well, we're gonna do it again. I don't know how it works, but I think if we have somebody there other than the two of y'all, Todd and yourself, doing it, I think that would be better for our business owners and establishments to know the right questions to ask to help them get that. Is that?
Yes, and through the long-term recovery, the business group, that we have broken it out into, we're still working on the more long-term case managers, but for now we've broken that up with points of contact. And so I sent an email to the directly impacted businesses to let them know who those contacts are, depending if they're a vacation rental or a retail or a small business.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for all you're doing. Really appreciate it. Next item is executive session, city manager annual evaluation. We will need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move to go into executive session under 551.074.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, so vote. And it passes unanimously. And we'll go upstairs for this.